You're back! Thank you! So there's about 15,000 people watched the part 1 for this video, which is pretty cool, guys. We're making like 130, 40, 50 mile an hour car. Something durable, something nice, sleek, beautiful. You don't really see wires. Like it's baller status, let me tell you. This is part 2 for this build, guys. Part 1 is going to be over there. 158 millimeter, about. Pluk. Now, the only thing we do have to do is to just raise it up just a little bit. Obviously, the second battery sits on the other side, and there's like 2-3 millimeters to spare. The only thing we need to do is raise it up a little bit because there's this little dealio here, and I don't want it to hurt the lipo. So the best way to raise anything, pretty much, with RC is good old trusty 3M dual lock. What we pretty much do is we take a bunch of pieces, and then we put them on top of each other. I'll show you guys. And then that raises up whatever you want it to raise up. And it helps with shifting. So it's going, obviously it's sticky and whatnot. It's going to be one here, so we have enough room for the strap here. We left these to have a strap on them. It's going to be some of it the dual lock here, some of it here. So we raise it up a little bit so it's a little bit above this one, not too much so we don't hit this post. And then the dual lock is also going to help us with shifting forward and backwards. And we are going to need that because after we install it, I'm going to show you in a second, once I install it, we literally have like 2-3 millimeters to spare here, maybe. Like we're stretching it. This is kind of the only way if you want to have like a consistent build like that with the original receiver box. Obviously we can make a short one or install a short one, and then we have a little bit more room. But if you want that, the XLX2 versus the Mamba X8S, this is the way to do it. And with that, this is about the room you have left. Let's put some dual lock. Ooh, Gens Ace, warning. Obviously I want my wire to be on this end just so it's easier to connect. This build doesn't really require super short wires, just, you know, so we're not losing voltage and blah whatnot under load, so it really doesn't matter. But here, and it's about here, just a little bit of alcohol here, nice, here, magnificent, thank you. Now honestly guys, there are probably much better, cleaner ways of doing it, but this build already taking all my time, and unfortunately for 10, 15, 20,000 views, I'm getting like 30 bucks from YouTube. So this build pretty much is a huge loss, but I'm kind of doing it for the community, so it is what it is, bear with me. In the meanwhile, because this is partially boring, I would say, that looks good, I will tell you guys a joke that someone I used to be friends with told me, which is pretty funny, I think. So a guy goes to a bar, right? And in that bar, he just sits next to the bar, you know, and he's having a drink, minding his whole goddamn business. And then he sees a jar, a big jar full of cash. There's like a bunch of 20s in it. So he's kind of curious, you know. And he asked the bartender, hey, well, what's the deal with the jar, you know? So she said, well, we have like a little bit of a bet here in the bar, and no one can actually do it. It's a little bit of a challenge. We call it the jar challenge. So you put 20 bucks in the jar, and then if you do all the 3 things that you should do in the challenge, then you get to keep the jar. He's like, oh, hell yeah, I want to try. And he's like, all right, what is it? She's like, well, there is, was it 3? No, I think it was 2. I'm butchering this joke. But anyway, yeah, 2 things that you need to do. He's like, all right, what is it? She said, well, the first thing is there is a huge pit bull in the back with a sore tooth. You need to go up back there and remove the bad teeth from bad teeth from the pit bull's mouth. He's like, okay. And the pit bull obviously is like scary and dangerous and whatnot. And then, yeah, that looks good. Does it? I hope. And then, oh, look at that, it's so balanced. It looks like, you know what, but it'll be strong enough. We have a strap anyway, and these are relatively, I mean, a lot stronger than you think. Anyway, put some alcohol here. So he's like, yeah, just go out the back, and we have a pit bull, sore tooth. You remove the tooth, that's the first one, and then we have a 94-year-old woman at the second floor. You need to bring her to orgasm. He's like, oh man, all right. You know what? I'm drunk enough. I'm just going to try it. Why not? What the heck? So she's like, all right, well, put a 20 in the jar. He's like, okay. So he puts $20 in the jar. By the way, alcohol here, wait for it to dry. Alcohol here, I already said all these things. And strap. So he's like, all right, I'm gonna give it a shot. Why not? I have nothing to lose, about 20 bucks, obviously. So he puts a 20, he goes out back, and you start hearing the pit bull screaming like crazy, of course. And there's just like a ton of noise, and you hear loud bangs, and everything is flying all over the place. And just, you know, like carnage for a good, probably a good 10-15 minutes, and you know, screaming, and the guy is screaming. He comes back into the bar, and did I put it the other way around? Of course. Sorry guys, this is the first time I ever build an RC. So he comes back, his entire, like all his clothing and everything is tore up, he's bleeding, he's breathing heavily. He's like, whew, that was trippy. All right, well, where's that 94-year-old with a sore tooth? So alcohol, and then we remove these and these. Look at that. Magnificent. This is so crooked. Like, maybe I'll edit it out, or I'll just keep it. I don't know. We'll see. Guys, as tight as you can to the ESC, because there's literally like a millimeter or two left here. This build is a weird dog, but it's a nice, kind of sleek, clean way, I think, of having 8S on a limitless without obviously extending everything. So we bring it here and all the way to the ESC, and we press, and hallelujah, we have ourselves a battery sitting, and it will not be able to shift. Yeah, there's like nothing left. Like, it's with 158, was it 158? Yeah, I think it was 158 millimeter. There's not a lot left, but it works. It's clear. It looks worse on video. I gotta be honest. It looks a little bit more roomy, not on video, but like in real life, you know. But yeah, so that's pretty much the battery here. Now that we have the battery here, it's strapped, it sits nicely, it looks good, it's elegant. Now we can do, oh, I'm sorry. The other side. The other side, relatively easy, since we don't have to raise it up. We just put a couple of strips or whatever of dual lock on this area and strap it. I'll be back in a minute. This part is rather boring. Sand this part a little bit, because for some reason, nothing wants to stick to it. Those balance tabs, I don't know what plastic they're using, but I swear it should be in the sex industry, because it's so freaking sleek, smooth and oily, like nothing sticks to it. So sand a little bit, and then you can actually cut. Let me show you what I did here. Then you can actually cut just a little remainings of your strap here, and just CA them here with super glue nicely, and I'll show you in a second how that looks, how the finished product looks, because it's just not nice when these are kind of loose like that. I don't like it. So just a little dab of super glue in the center. It doesn't have to be huge. I just cut little tiny squares off of it, and I lay them here nicely. After it's obviously sanded, it's going to bite a lot stronger. Now sometimes I press on it like that, sometimes I use accelerator. It really depends on how the material reacts. And that's pretty much it. And I use these. These are on horizon, but you can use whatever accelerator you want. Not too much. Let it dry. Give it just a little nudge. Make sure that it sits nicely, and then you can put the other piece on the other side, obviously, and glue it to wherever. And then it just nicely tucked and keeps a nice clean build. I'm going to show you guys that in a second when it's finished. Okay, so I ended up sanding here just a little bit also, just so it bites better. This is super sleek and smooth also. Just a little square, that's pretty much what you want. Just a quick, nice, easy way of tucking this on the side. That's it. That's all it is to it. And then it doesn't fly anywhere, and it looks nice, clean and tidy. Much better. See, just keeps a nice, clean build. And it's not too strong, so you can obviously pull it, balance your battery, and then just put it back in. Doesn't have to be super straight and professional. Obviously for the video, we're going to put it like really, really straight. Well, unless we're going to try and attempt to put it really, really straight. something like that. Anyway, but it keeps it together. It's just nice. So when the car rolls and whatnot, it just stays there. It looks good, looks clean. Let's continue. Okay, so let's install some connectors on this puppy. My favorite ones are QS8s. They come with that little thing here, and it's just great. And they have a little resistor. A lot of people don't know it, but QS8 connectors have a 5.1 ohm resistors in them, and they are two-stage. Hopefully you can see it in the camera. Let me try and bring it here. See, two-stage? So the bullet, the male obviously, comes in, hit the first stage. That is the one connected to the resistor, and then it just helps delivering a little bit of initial voltage to the capacitors of the ESC. So it's a two-stage pretty much, and that's why it's an anti-spark. Also, it fits perfectly nice here with the male. I'm going to bring it in a minute, and it just fits nicely. So QS8, these are, in my opinion, the best connectors out there. Now, when you're cutting the wires from your, sorry about that, when you're cutting the wires, obviously never cut both together, because then big kaboom, the house burns down, the wife leaves you, the kids disown you, you know the drill. Hopefully you never know the drill, but it is what it is. So cut only one at a time. Obviously we're going to start with the negative, which I did. Then we're going to expose it. I normally expose them with a little blade, just easier. Make sure you don't cut too much of the little hairs inside. So what I do, not a lot, but just kind of bring my blade here. So I'm trying to show with the camera, and I just roll it a couple of times. Let me actually do it from here so you guys can see me. And I just roll it, and then I can come with my little cutter and expose it, and life is good. This is it. Then what I do is I tin the wire. Now I sometimes don't, but you guys should. So let me actually zoom into tinning the wire so you guys can see how I tin the wire, and then I install it. Don't forget always to put this before you do everything, obviously, because if not, you're screwed. You have to do everything all over again. All right, let's tin the wire a little bit. This is what I'm using, by the way. It's a nice base, and you have all those little helping hands that you can do whatever you want with. And I'm going to position here. This is my soldering station, by the way. It comes with a solder iron and a heat gun. And I'll bring you back into action. A little bit wobbly, sorry about that. What I usually do is I take a little solder and I put some flux on it, nothing too crazy. And by the way, this is the flux I am using. That's it. Putting just a little bit of flux on the wire. I already turned on my solder iron, so it's already rather hot. Now there are many ways to skin a cat, which, by the way, is one of the weirdest sentences. You gotta be kind of sick to even invent one of those sentences. But there are many ways to skin a cat when it comes to soldering. This is how I do it. I sometimes don't even tin it. I do everything together because it's just so hot. But really up to you. So what I do is I usually put some solder on the actual dealio here, and then introduce it to the wire with the flux on it. And it just drinks it, and that's it. So tinning it just a little bit more. And I didn't clean my solder iron enough, but it is what it is. See, the wire is tinned, and I stay on it just for a little bit. And that's pretty much it. Now the wire is tinned, filled with solder. Just a little bit of flux in the cup. That's even too much, so I'm just gonna smear it evenly inside the cup. Again, putting just a little bit on the actual solder iron and introduce it to the cup. Just nicely, because both of them have a little bit of flux. It sticks nicely, and that's pretty much it. Now my cup have a little bit of solder. That looks good enough. So we got the wire ready for us, and we got the cup ready for us. And now we're going to marry them together. Let's clean up our act a little bit, and that's pretty much it. Now I'm going to move you guys just a tad so you can see it from all directions. Sorry, that's going to be just a little bit shaky. That's about right. So now they're both joined, And that's it. Just make sure obviously there's no solder on the bottom and stuff, because then it will obviously short. And make sure you don't do it for too long, because then it will deliver a lot of heat to that plastic and it's really not good for it. So that is pretty much kind of how it's supposed to look. Now I'm sitting from here, so I don't really see the other side. If I were to do it without taking a video, of course, it would have been a little bit better, a little bit nicer, and I can see all sides and kind of fill it up and everything. But for whatever it's worth, for now, this is what we are working with. I'll probably fill it up just a little bit more, but I think that looks rather okay. Now guys, serious note, once you already have the negative connected, obviously, make sure that you isolate that properly. So I use just electric tape a little, because seriously now, if that positive touches or if there's some solder dripping and they're both shorting out, that's really bad day at the office. So another thing, when you clamp it, make sure you don't clamp both of these together, because that'll be a short. So I'm clamping only the negative here and then solder, solder, and putting them together. Make sure this is well isolated, and make sure that you don't have any solder dripping on it. Like it'll just short, it'll be bad, really bad. So anyway, let's continue. Another quick tip, when you set up your helping hands, guys, make sure that the wire actually touches something, the side, the bottom, whatever, because if it's just floating in the air, you're just going to have more resistance, being that the solder will try to actually transfer all that voltage and amperage. So you want it to be touching something. Another quick tip, make sure that the actual connector is leaning down just a little bit, so you don't have a lot of spill ups from here. So just leaning down a little bit, you have a nice angle, so all the solder wants to go this way. Then just make sure when you set up your helping hands that it's actually touching something. Clean your tip real good. I make sure that I clean it every single time. Introduce some solder into it, because we have a little bit of flux in this solder also. It is a 6040 rosin core. And stay on it until you see that it actually sips it in there. And I keep delivering heat, not too much, but I do want it to actually react, and it will in a second. Keep delivering heat. Now once in a while I check underneath to make sure that solder is not hitting the negative, obviously. Keep delivering heat, and soon enough, whoop, it will just drink everything and make everything once. And let me keep watching the bottom here. Not yet. And now it did. Okay, so now it actually took it all. Now I can actually fill it up nicely. Again, people take soldering so personally. I'm going to have so many guys looking at my soldering job and saying, nah, that's not how you do it. But honestly, with soldering, sometimes it comes out like perfect. Sometimes it come out, you know, just eh. Now it's a bit dirty, but I can obviously fill up the entire cup and everything if I want to, but since the negative is here, I want to keep it as clean as I can and as quick of a process as I can. I don't want anything to drip on that negative and actually short out, to be honest. So this is good enough. It's well connected in there. Everything is filled nicely, so no need to be all dramatic about it and fill the cup. Like, it's not really a must. If it does happen while you're doing it, awesome. But if it doesn't happen, but you still have a super strong joint and all, that's good enough. Quick tip, guys, once you're done with everything, sometimes because it gets too hot, it's not going to be as easy to push that. So just not here, but here, just put a screwdriver and just press it like so. And that's all there is to it. Then it actually locks it. Alright, so other side's negative is done, a little bit dirty, but I'm going to clean it up in a second. Once again, make sure nothing is dripping on the bottom. And now I'm obviously going to isolate that just so when I solder the other one, it doesn't short again, or insulate. Both are true, but you know what I mean. Alright, let's do the other one real quick and we'll be done with those connectors. Okay, ESC side. Guys, by the way, this jumper I talked about yesterday, and I showed how to extract those 8mm bullets from the actual QS8 connectors. If you saw the video, great. If not, I guess hit the bell so you get notifications. A lot of you guys don't see my videos simply because the bell is not pressed, so you don't get notification and you don't see it on your feed. This is the lazy way. Obviously, I already measured the length of those wires to fit the application. The lazy way, which is my way, is pretty much putting flux on the wire, flux on the bullet, and a little bit of flux on the solder, and just let it hit pretty much. This is pretty much doing everything together at once versus tinning the wire, preparing the cup, and then joining between them and heat them up and blah blah blah. I'm not sure this is a better way of doing it, but this is how I've been doing it for the longest time now, and it kind of works for me. There's just so much heat generated by this solder iron, and I sit on it and wait. It literally drinks everything, and it's just concrete when it's done. So to me, that works. That is not the proper perfect way of doing it, but to me, that works. All right, that's pretty much it for now. All right, there's definitely a little bit too much flux on this one, but that happens. I think we're almost about done with this connector, though it looks good enough, and I kept the heat there for quite some time, so everything bonded exactly like it should. That looks pretty good. All right, that's enough. Now we're gonna put a nice marine heat shrink. The good thing about marine is that I have a little bit of glue inside, so they're super strong. In order for me to know, that's just one of my little techniques, where exactly to put the heat shrink, because I don't want nothing to be exposed, just for cosmetics. I actually get a QS8 and I connect it, and then I bring my heat shrink all the way. And then once I heat it up, which I will right now, I'm actually, just in the beginning, I'm actually pushing the heat shrink a little bit towards the connector. So it's kind of forced to go into that little groove. And then I can let go and not apply more pressure. And then pretty much every time I will connect it, it will be spot on and flat right into it. Because it's marine and it have a little bit of glue integrated within it, they're not moving anywhere. They're so strong. This is how it's gonna look in real life. Magnificent. Alright, so I think this is it for this second part of this build. We're just waiting to connect receiver wires and motor wires, and then we can do the calibration, go through the radio and everything, all the settings and setup. I'm going to show you guys everything. For now, that's what we got. We put two connectors, we have a harness. The good thing about it is that it's clean and everything holds together. You don't have to clamp it or whatever, so you can get the lipos out and in of the car in seconds. In some builds, and I like those center brace because they're square, I either do Velcro here or dual lock, or maybe a zip tie here and leave the batteries in the car, and then pretty much just the positive connects and disconnect from here. So pretty much negative connects here, they're connected in series for two 4S to create an 8S, of course, and then once we're ready to run, we just take that positive wire, stick it in here, and it's done, and everything is held, so nothing will actually go and touch the shaft or whatnot, and nothing will obviously touch the body, and everything is just here. It's strong enough to hold it, and we have 8 gauge wires all around, besides the batteries. That's factory, I think that's 10 gauge, yeah it is, and QS8s. Now guys, I've been mentioning it in my last videos, if you don't hit the bell, you don't get to see my videos. For some reason, after I changed my location, YouTube is not putting the videos on the home feed of most of my subscribers. So sucks, but completely up to you. If you want to see the next video, for example for this one, you kind of have to hit the bell. If not, you're not going to know about it, and maybe in like a month, even though it might take like 3 days, you're going to see it and be like, oh, interesting, I've never seen that. So hit the bell if you're already a subscriber. Awesome, thank you. If not, welcome to the family, and I'll see you guys on the next one. Bye.